Very sad day, really, isn't it, when you lose someone that you wholeheartedly admire and were lucky enough, in my particular case, to meet and know on a number of occasions. We're talking about the sad demise of a wonderful, brilliant actress, Patricia Routledge. Forever to many people, though, Mrs. Bouquet or Bucket, depending on where you came from. As ever, let me explain. Morning, good to see you, chums. Thank you so much. Sorry to start off with sad news, but it's kind of happy news as well in many respects, because of course, what I often say, nice to see you, sorry, welcome one and all brand new subscribers. What I often say is that it's nice because they leave such an incredible sort of work behind that now we can enjoy for, years and years to come. Always sad to lose someone, particularly when they are so talented, as was Patricia Routledge. And there were so many people of that particular era. And when I was lucky enough to meet her, she came to the studio, in fact, alongside Clive Swift. And Clive, as you know, played the henpecked husband, which we all loved, didn't we, in Keeping Up Appearances. I think the reason why, and do let me know about this in the comments below, I think the reason why is we all knew a Mrs. Bouquet, didn't we? We all knew somebody who was, intrinsically sort of quite common deep down, or had common relatives, whatever common is, we're all the same in the end, aren't we? And the thing is, she just wanted to elevate herself, and she did this brilliantly. Judy Cornwell, of course, who was part of the cast alongside the brilliant Geoffrey Hughes, former Eddie Yates in Coronation Street. There were an incredible sort of ensemble of talent. Mary Miller being the sort of rather flirty sister. Everything was just great, and it ticked the boxes. Roy Clark, the man who put it all together, said to me he couldn't get a better or more perfect cast. Patricia Routledge, though, waited a long time to get her big break. For my generation, I first remember seeing her all thanks to another wonderful repertory company, that was the Victoria Wood As Seen on TV. And she had a wonderful character there called Kitty, originated by a sort of similar character by Julie Walters of Dolly. And Dottie, basically, but Dolly was the name. And what was interesting when I got to know Victoria very well, she said when she was writing that particular section of the show, she could only hear Patricia Routledge's voice. She said it was like it was coming to life, because she just played those barking, sort of annoying people very well. When I met Patricia, I said, what were your significant roles? And she said, all of them, because it took me so long after years of being in repertory to get that big break. She said she particularly enjoyed, sort of acting the words of Alan Bennett, another great Northerner, another great Yorkshireman. Very shy, by the way. I met him on a train on a couple of occasions. Just a really nice guy, but very, very shy. But as she said, his words just spring out on the page and you think, I know this character. And of course, she appeared in that marvellous series called Talking Heads. But as Patricia pointed out, she was glad that she didn't get fame when she was younger, because she didn't think that she would have gotten the roles that she got later on in life. And get this, she said she didn't know if she could do comedy when you think about Mrs. Bouquet now. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And she said, well, it's all about the excellent timing and knowing when to place a laugh. And she said, but by the time Hyacinth came along, I was well into a certain age. And she said, I was up for anything, wanted to do the stunts, liked the fact that I could make fun of myself, and suddenly knew where the laughs were on the page. And she said, and boy, were they there. Of course, Josephine Tewson, who played her neighbour, do you remember? And of course, she dared pick up the cup and saucer. You see, this is the thing about sharing memories, isn't it? You're just giggling because you remember just how much joy and happiness Patricia Routledge has now left behind. I said, did you base her anybody? And she said, of course. She said, I had a neighbour not too dissimilar of my mum's. And she said, and she was very similar. She said, you couldn't just go round. It had to be doilies and cake stands and the full afternoon tea, the jams, the whole thing. She said, but we knew behind the scenes that really she was just like us and had things in the larder and wouldn't bother with that sort of paraphernalia had she not wanted to impress. And apparently that's how she created such a loving, wonderful and never to be forgotten character. Patricia Routledge was 96 years old. As she said, she'd had a wonderful life, and the sort of mantra for happiness, she said, was to just accept where you are, realize this is the point that you're at, and try and move forward. As she pointed out also, you can't change the past, you very rarely can change the future, because she believed it was mapped out for you, as were the wonderful roles that came her way. And boy, there were plenty. Thank you, Patricia Routledge, for all the fun, laughter and sheer acting talent. Neil Sean in the heart of the United Kingdom.